Good morning, Breakfast with Bacon fans. I'm going to ask you if you recognize the face on the screen. You probably don't. My guest today is a very good man with a ministry sent from heaven. His name is Michael Gardiner. He considers himself just a plain old Catholic layman from the pews, right? You said bleachers, but I say pews because you're Catholic. And he has been called by the Holy Spirit to start a ministry that we are going to need, especially for those of you that are not only preppers, but prepping for the times that we know are about to come. So, Michael Gardiner, thank you for being a guest on my show. It means so much to me that you reached out to me first. Second of all, that you're doing what you're doing. And then, of course, that you're willing to share it with the world.
Thank you, Christine. It's an honor to be here. It really is. And a pleasure.
Well, I'm having fun already too. When I got your email, I was like, yeah, we need to talk about this. Now, you had been, what we're going to talk about today is the Eucharist, the altar. What do Catholics need to have when the church is no longer above ground? I know you said a lot of people don't like that word underground, but when the church is being disseminated, when the words of the consecration are changed, and we know that that is actually in the plans. There are some people, word on the street at the Vatican, who are already trying to work and change the words of the consecration. When that happens, it's no longer valid. So the church will, in fact, those who still believe, will go underground, or will have to start finding priests that they know will say mass for them. And they aren't always going to have everything with them. So kind of start with, you started with a letter to the remnant. What was that all about?
It came from many, many years of preparation, prayer, discernment, and it fell into the last few months of a deep, deep discernment, deep prayer, dreams, different consolations, different affirmations from the Lord, and so I brought it to adoration again and again and again. Brought it to mass, brought it to prayer, and that discernment got deeper. And it came through words of others. It came through scripture. It came through again and again the threefold. This person said this. This person said that. Confirm this. Confirm that. Literally said the same thing out of 3 and 5 different people. Yeah. So I had to take that as God's trying to tell me something. So I took it back to adoration, took it back to prayer. I'm nobody. I'm just a lay guy from the bleachers, as I said, from the pew. And it kept coming in the readings, kept coming in mass. You know, you have to prepare for this time that's ahead. And I asked, what does that mean? Although I kind of knew, being a prepper all these many years, preparing physically, food, water, all this, prepare for a time that I will not be available. Whoa. So I took that back to prayer, and he kept showing me that there's different things. And this is my first time doing this thing, so I'm just a lay guy, ditch digger. But he reminded me of the dark days we went through for those 4 years, 5 years now. And in the beginning, at that one point during Lent, when it was all shut down and there was no Eucharist, it was a short time and it was a test. It was a moment that God in his mercy showed us what this is going to be like for us in the future. So I took that and went with it. Backing up, what I am, I'm a carpenter. Yeah, I don't write books. I'm just a regular everyday guy like tens of thousands of other people. And with that, I want to say for a moment, on behalf of 10,000, I don't know how many people out there, to say thank you to you, Christine. Thank you to the sisters of Christine Watkins, all the guys, Marks, all the guys out there, the podcast people, the priests that have spent hours, so much time through the dark days to now. You guys have been our, as Xavier said, captains. You guys have led us through this time, given us a point of focus, something to look forward to. Your podcast. Oh, she's going to put a podcast. And we all sit around our screens and we all watch and we all talk about it at mass after mass. Did you see this? Did you see that? And all these years, you guys have led us to this point. You've brought us through. Because without you, I often ponder, what would it have been like? And yeah, we have scripture. Yeah, we have mass. Thanks be to God, we have our church. It's still open. But who would we have had to lead us through these little things and explain stuff to us and give us points of direction and guide us through and inspire us? And so I say thank you on behalf of all these people that are sitting out there watching this thing in the bleachers with me behind me.
Oh, well, thank you, but it shows just how much God is using those of you in the bleachers, in the pews as well, because he's bringing us together to say, look, this is a job I need to get done. I'm known for having a big mouth, but you're doing all the work here. And, I want to do a quick promo before we go on, because you mentioned their names and I forgot to mention that those people, Christine Watkins, Daniel O'Connor, Mark Mallet, and Father Chris Aylar are all coming to Virginia Beach here where I am. And we're having a conference on October 12th. And they will all be speaking. You can meet them all face to face. And so I would love to have you register. And the tickets are so affordable, but they're go to truthspeakers.org. And we'd love to get you here. It's going to be set up like a wedding ballroom, and you're sitting at a 10 tops, and you get to hear all those speakers, and all the vendors are selling some of the stuff that you're going to be talking about today in the room. You can get the rosaries, you can get the altar cloths, you can get the Eucharist. So I'm telling people we'd love to meet you at the Truth Speakers third annual conference, October 12th of 2024 here in Virginia Beach, and you can meet those people. So yeah, they are amazing. They did the same thing to me, Michael, that you're saying, I helped, praise God, to be a part of. I watched them and I'm like, what is going on here? And that woke me up to the church is about to go through well, as Mark Mallet and Daniel say, a mighty storm. And we have got to be prepared. And I know a lot of people watching are getting their food, they are collecting water, but you are here to talk about the most important food. And a lot of people don't know where to get it, what they need. Let's talk about that, because you are talking about the Eucharist. And when these priests are not in churches, they are going to look for us so that they can find the houses that they can hold Mass and bring our Holy Lord to us. How are we going to do this? What do we need to have? How is he going to find us?
Interesting thing, once I started this and printed this up and been passing it out, mailing it out, I have come across a sense of controversy over the issue of not only Eucharist, but the reservation of Eucharist in the future. People, as being a sacristan for many, many years, I feel sometimes that I get the gift of being the bridge between the sanctuary floor and the people in the pew. We all show up for Mass. We all show up and it's there. It's ready to go. It's on the credence
Take
table,
it
which
for granted.
for Mass. And the priest is vested in a sacristy, and he comes and he comes up forward, and it's all done for us. And we sit in our one pew, maybe another one on occasion, and we get that joy. We get that awesome experience of receiving God in the body and blood, and we give thanks, and then we go home. And someone comes in after everyone's gone, and it's quite the experience to do so when everyone's gone, and you're alone on that credence table, alone with the leftovers from that meal. And you think, and this has been part of this apostolate, it gets me thinking, what are we going to do when this is gone? Like you said, we've all prepped, we've all done our thing. Some have more buckets than others. Some have one filter, some have another. Some have a plan, some don't. But all of us, I think, in general, as a Catholic family, we know what's coming. And as Our Lady, she often says the word horrific. And if you ever look that up, that's a creepy little word to look up. Horrific,
Horrors.
Oh,
unlike anything we've ever seen before, it said.
And even through Pedro, she says, you have yet long years of suffering. I wish you would quit saying that. No, really? How long are those years? We all know in Scripture, and I put in my little paper that I wrote. We all know in Scripture that the Antichrist is going to have his 3 years, 3.5 years. Yeah. What's going to happen between the now and the then? I mean, the 3.5 years when he's in reign and causing all kinds of crazy stuff, we know that's bad. And then we know our now, we're at the precipice of the synod of synodality. We're on the precipice of all this terrible stuff in the fall. We're all looking about 2 months. We've been waiting for a lot of years, but if you really have been waiting and looking, it's getting really, really close. And a lot of the chatter, a lot of the talk, it's getting close. So when that thing hits, between the now and the then, and we've all experienced, the churches having a little closure during the dark days of recent past, momentarily. It was a gift, and we all experienced that. Put that in an indefinite time. Put that in your heart. Those of us who have come to a daily mass, those of us who do 2 and 3 outside of Sundays, are able to manage that. And or those of us that just all we can do is Sunday because of our family and our way of life. Take that out of your life. Take that moment, that union out of your life indefinitely.
And
For
you won't be
days.
able to watch it on TV either. You won't be able to
Everything's
watch
done.
Mass, right?
Banks are closed, everything's shut down. We're probably going to be at war at this point next year. All things looking that way.
But we don't know when, right? So I always want to
No,
make sure on my show that no one ever says Christine
no one
Bacon
ever
said when,
says.
because God says
No
he's
one-
the only one that knows the time or the place. But we do know it's soon. The messages coming
It's not
from
looking
heaven are
good.
saying soon.
It's
Be
looking good.
prepared, be in a state of grace, because you do need to be in a state of grace, Michael, to receive the Eucharist anyway. And so now, because you and I are going to talk a lot about the Eucharist today and masses and home altars, but if we're not in a state of grace, and we can't get that same priest to give us confession and we die in that state, how horrific will that be? But we need to be in a state of grace, receive the sacrament of confession so that we can have mass. So people are going to start coming. The way I see it, there's going to be houses, and it's going to have to be like they did back in World War I and World War II, very private messages. You're going to be traveling person to person. You don't know who you can trust, who you can. Right now, I think part of the suggestions we should make is you should know 100% who you can trust. Like, who do you trust with your life in talking about the Mass and God and where it's being held? Like, abolitionists did it. They had to make sure they knew who the right person was. Anyway, so if it's going to be held at your house or my house, in this letter that you sent her, and something I read from you said, the priest isn't going to be walking around with an altar kit in his back and his collar on. It's like, well, that's instant, suicide right there.
Right,
So
exactly.
what kind
Hey,
of things do you think people need to have, and which people need to have them, and how should we store them and stuff like
well, I
that?
actually had someone tell me that one time, and God bless them. Well, priests have a mass kit, don't they? They're fine. Well, put this in the future. Put this in a time that Our Lady has been showing us. And a lot of what this has come from is role play in that future time. So what I'm looking to is to maybe just create a whole army of little sacristans, a whole army of little people that have put stuff back, maybe some altar bread, some wine, a chasuble, maybe if you're lucky, or just an alb that a priest can wear, a stole. I have a nice lady on our apostolate papers who has a little site who is making altar cloths, altar linens. She's making the purificator. She's making the pall. She's making everything that we need. And you can buy a mass kit online. I personally, like I was saying, I don't write books. I make tabernacles. I brass line them so they're beautiful and gorgeous in the inside, plain on the outside, so they're not so noticeable. If people would start collecting some things, maybe like you say, buy a few bags of breads. And if you do buy the breads, try to buy them from an order that makes them for their living, because it sustains them. And if you can't do that, you can find them elsewhere. I put on my apostolate, which I
Yeah.
hope you have on your link.
No, I want you to do that because I'm
Oh,
looking.
yeah.
You have a list of all of these in front of me, which is
All kinds of stuff. It's a
wonderful.
long list. And I've had people say, oh my gosh, no. Just do what you can with your state in life. A Roman Missal, the book you see on the altar during Mass, right? You can buy a chapel size for a fairly reasonable amount of money. You can buy a piece of this, a piece of that. And what I encourage people to do in my apostolate is, if you can't do it all yourself, understandable. Are you part of a prayer group? Knights of Columbus, homeschool? Are you on one-on-one with your priest? Has he got it going? Does he understand what's coming? Your liturgist, if you have a bigger parish, your sacristan, talk with him. You can build this little kit. You can build this little chapel of stuff and put it away, put it aside. And you might think, well, That's crazy. Well, we've been doing this for how many years? We've been putting buckets away. We've been doing this and that. We've been, oh, what are we going to do? And nothing's happened. The show hasn't come. And a lot of people have left the theater. But we still have our stuff. It might be outdated, but we still have our stuff. Why can't we do the same thing with what's required to celebrate Mass?
The
Put
most
stuff
important meal. The most important meal. There
meal
have been
of
many
our
saints
life.
that have
And can you
lived on the
imagine what this
Eucharist.
is going to be like? This traumatic experience that we all kind of, without Eucharist, without sacraments, without a priest. And granted, there's not that many priests per the people that are out there. Of course not. This whole apostolate is based on a deeper faith than I think we've had up to this point. And I had a friend of mine from Virginia tell me one time, Michael, nobody's responding because I think you've touched on something that people aren't ready to touch yet. You're opening a door to something that we're not ready to walk through yet. And I get that. Me as my wife and I, there's no one else. It's just us and our little business. I do it all myself. I'm used to that way of thinking. I role play in advance. I look ahead to prepare for the now. That's what I put into this apostolate. And that's what I'm encouraging those who are called. Not everybody's called to this. This is not something that's general. There are a lot of people that just live their everyday life, but there are some people that keep having these dreams. There's some people that keep having these inspirations. They go to Mass and they can't. We had breakfast with a very nice lady the other day, and she said, I keep getting this inspiration to buy a breviary. I couldn't get it out of my head. It wouldn't go away, and it kept coming back. And until she bought the breviary, it wouldn't leave her alone. And then once she did, it was gone. I said, there you go. That's exactly what this apostolate is. There are people out there say, I have to do something. I have to do something. This apostolate is to encourage you to do that. Don't be afraid. It's okay.
I tell you, you are so good. Well, because I have friends, like some people I know have tons of money. That's not my blessing. And they've been putting lots of food aside, lots of stuff in their houses. And my husband and I are just trying to get enough for the grandchildren because they're not things like that. But when you reached out to me, because what you just said is true, God's going to build this community, is the things you sent me, something like, now this I can do. This is something I feel called to do. Because when the C word happened, Michael, what does it say? 70% of the Catholics in the pews don't even believe in transubstantiation. I think many of those people left when the churches were shut down and never came back. And those who came back, especially those going to daily Mass, are those who are all in. Those are the ones who are going to be like, okay, I know that we need this food. And that's okay, because you're an ordinary, what'd you call it, a layman in the pews. Too.
Oh, it's actually my mother calling from my account. I'll hang up on her. She'll forgive me. Okay, sorry.
People around the world, this is how we roll. This is life.
Oh, life happens.
Life happens. So what I'd like to do is go through a little bit, sorry for showing the papers on the screen, but a little bit of what you have on this list, because what Michael has, and I'd like to just read a few of the categories, but he said, okay, you're going to need altar breads made by these religious orders to support themselves. And then he has a link to each one. Then he has altar wine requirements. And then he has a link to where you can get it. And it even says, what are the liturgical laws concerning altar wine? Altar linens. I never thought about having a tabernacle at my house. And there's a place where you can buy them. A small altar, missal, altar beads. Anyway, so kind of go into this list if you can. Because as a sacristan, this is valuable.
It is. It's just a list that I compiled out of memory, out of heart. Then the tabernacle thing was just the order of priests that I'm a privilege to be associated with are from Spain, and they're beautiful guys. And I have 5 of them here in Denver that I have the great privilege of serving at Mass. And I've built their chapel in the rectory, and they got another rectory because there's so many of them. I was privileged to do the furniture in their other chapel. And from that process, I started building little tabernacles. And I do.
Oh, you build them yourself?
I build them myself. I line them with brass. And the reason I did that and came to this apostolate is because when you look online, there's a lot of beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tabernacles out there.
Yeah, but it's like $1,000, right?
but a lot of people can't afford these things. They're very expensive because they're gorgeous. So I got the middle ground, and I just started making them out of sacred wood, or good wood, hardwood, but I line them with brass, so the interior is just gorgeous.
And is that one right over your shoulder? Is that?
I got one over here, and I have another one that we're in the process of creating. But we put a plaque of Divine Mercy on the front, and I put it out there, and some people who are called have purchased them. Others can't. From putting this apostolate out there and encouraging people to get what they can, I've learned, which is really interesting, how many people have been doing this for a very long time.
Yes.
In secret. This apostolate is to encourage those who are halfway, who they've been called. They go to Mass every day or whenever they can. They're very devout. They go to adoration. They, oh my gosh, what do I do? I got this thing. I can't sleep. I'm getting dreams. You can do this. You can do this. You can put back this or that. And the point of this is, you may die. We all may die. This thing is going to be horrific, as Our Lady said. We don't know what we're facing or when. It's going to be bad. That's all we know. Like Father Ripper, it's going to be really bad. So you did this thing. So you purchased this item. So you put that back. So you hid this in your stairs. So you built the chapel. So you have a Mass kit of your own that you created. God knows you did that. God knows where it is. And that person will be sent at that point of time, if it's not you, and it will glow for them.
Exactly. Well, and so one of the other things that we know from people building refuges, Michael, is that you may not be the one in that house.
Exactly.
God is going to use that as a refuge, but he's going to send someone else in some of them to live there. So when you have all the stuff there, even if you die, even if you're a martyr, even if you move, that stuff is there. And God will make sure that it gets into the right hands. So
this is like deep dish pizza prep. This is like going above and beyond. This is beyond yourself. Yes. And we all prepare. We all put stuff back for our families, for those we may never meet. Of course we do. That's what God commands us to do. This is for that thing that's hard to touch, because Eucharist is a hard thing to talk about. I'm just an average everyday guy. I'm not the big educated. I don't have all this stuff. I am a workaday guy. I'm a laborer. I see things through my hands. I see things through what I can and can't do. An example I had in my head. I role play, like I said, for a living. If I was going to go into your house and you and I had signed a contract and I had everything ready to go, I have torn apart your kitchen or your bathroom or your whatever 100 times before I ever show up. By the time I show up, it's just mechanics to me, because I've already done it in my head over and over and over again. And I put that into this apostolate. I role play. I look ahead into what Our Lady's given us, into what the current events are doing, what's going on in the Vatican, what you guys are all trying to tell us as best you can, without saying too much.
Without getting shut down, right?
And you get a general consensus of what's coming.
Yeah.
And God bless you guys, as thank you in the beginning. Because with that general consensus, you can say, okay, this has been covered, that's been covered, we're talking about this, we're doing that. It gets a little crazy, you got to take a break, go camping, come back to it. There seems to be one thing missing. What are we going to do when the sacraments are not available? And Father Ripperger, God bless him, has touched on this. And God bless him, without the virtues, we're not going to make it. I love the way he says, unless you master the virtue of mortification, you're not going to survive the chastisement. It's like, oh.
Well, I'm screwed.
Yeah, oh, I'm going to make it. And it's kind of a funny thing. But I always say seems to be a gap with the sacraments. Yes, we need them to survive. And we as Catholics are obligated to receive those sacraments. And we can't receive the precious food unless we're ready to receive him. So that requires confession. And where does that all come from? Like John Paul II said, without the priest, there's no Eucharist. Without the Eucharist, there's no priest. So the two are one. There's no separation in that. And we have a handful of priests for hundreds of thousands of people within a certain area. This whole entire apostolate in my heart, I've been shown through adoration time and again, is nothing but faith. Nothing but deep, deep faith. We don't know if we're going to live. We don't know what's going to be done with the stuff we buy.
We just need to be obedient.
We just need to be obedient. Just like Our Lady, it's in June. We all climbed Apparition Hill in June. Millions of us around the world together. It was beautiful. For 9 days, we climbed the mountain every day, wherever we were.
And
we
you're talking about Medjugorje. A lot of people don't know where Apparition Hill is. So you went to the not yet
just said
approved.
prayers. We all said, okay, the army, we took our rosaries and we all went up that hill together from wherever we were around the world online. And it was beautiful. And you knew there were millions of people around who you never met, you never see, were praying as she asked us to do. And then when she was done, she said, thank you. And she left. And that was it. What? That was it. So we did what we were supposed to do. She asked us to do something, heaven asked, and we did it. The end result of that is not for us. Same with this apostle. The end result is not ours.
Let me ask you a question. Your priests, do they know about this? And what do they say? And have they helped contribute? Yeah, here's what I want you to have. What are their thoughts?
I have one priest, and I'll leave him nameless. He does not belong to the order. He's a parish nearby my house. He's a beautiful man. Knows full well what's coming, preaches about it. Great guy. He has helped me build a kit of my own. I have several now. Being a sacristan, I get all the old stuff, and I even put that in our apostolate papers here. Yeah, talk to your sacristan, talk to your priest. We change out old vestments, old
things,
everything old. And when a parish can afford to replace stuff, ask about it. Can I have that? But that entails you having a conversation with them about what we're talking about. And sometimes that goes really weird because a lot of our priests struggle with that. And God bless them. It's a difficult thing. They have to deal with a lot of stuff.
Well, fortunately for me, the liturgy director at my church is one of us, and she's...
Oh, you're blessed.
Yeah, so I can talk to her and she can give me whatever, used up. And
we got a new young liturgist at our parish, but I'm the veteran sacristan, so I say, you're not using that anymore, right? That's got a hole in it. I'll take it. That candle's about there.
So do you want to go over any of these things on the list? Because I think we've made the point that we need to have this ready, but you have some things that I hadn't heard of. And it's awesome. You got like altar linens, Etsy, the Catholic home gifts. I mean, whoever thought of that? I love the idea of you making some of these tabernacles. I didn't realize you did that. And we do have your email address. I know you don't yet have a website, but we need you to get one. But if you want to contact Michael and his wife, Diane Gardiner, PreciousFood at proton.me. And that is a link in the show notes below. So just contact them there if you're interested. Could you give me an idea? What are the low end and the high end of the prices on the tabernacles that you've made?
I just make two sizes. One of them's like 1,600. Another one is 900 plus shipping. But I did that because when you look online, God bless them, there's beautiful ones out there, and I don't want to take away from them.
Oh no, they're like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000.
Oh, the smaller ones of the size that I make are by 14, 10 by 10. They start at 25, 3,000. Start and up. There's some wooden boxes out there, but they're not reverent. They're not beautiful on the inside. They're just wooden boxes. We line ours with brass but that's really not the point of the apostle.
But you know what? That's the questions that I know my viewers want.
There's a nice lady that's a friend of ours in New York, and she has an Etsy site, and she's starting to make linens. The three main linens: the corporal, the pall.
Is this list comprehensive for if we had all these things? You have this small altar, chapel size Roman missal. You have altar breads, altar wine, 2 cruets, a lavabo, the mass linens, the chalice paten, or a complete mass kit. And again, with all of these things, you have phone numbers or mass instructions. You have general missal requirements. I mean, you've got it in here saying, here's what the church says. That's what I love about this.
And another one is you go to the USCCB, U.S. Congress of Catholic Bishops. Go onto their website. It's beautiful. It tells you everything, not everything, but it really gives you a great guide.
Wow. Okay.
And also, too, if you get a hold of a Roman missal or at Mass, talk to your liturgist, open the front end of that Roman missal, and it tells you everything, the order of the Mass, and everything that is required for that Mass, and how to do it. It's a beautiful resource that I think is right before our eyes, and we never look. And that's another thing I wanted to tell people, and I think I put it in here. There's something so simple, so grassroots that we can do. It's just while you're at Mass, go to a new Mass for yourself and open your eyes and watch what's happening. We don't. We get so fixated on our routine, and we just go to mass and we receive and we pray and we love and we go, but we don't really see the inner workings of the mechanics of the mass. And if you watch the mechanics of the mass, as I do as a sacristan, because I got to make sure everything goes right, you learn. You say, oh, he reached for this. He read that. He did. What is that he's got in his hand? We get blinded to this over time, I noticed, even in my own self. But as a sacristan, I'm constantly having to keep watching. Oh, I forgot to put this out. I forgot to put that out. Oh, candle. I forgot to light the candles. It's always the worst. Or the key in the tabernacle. I had a deacon come to me one time right before distribution. After consecration, they go to the tabernacle to get the abundance of hosts. He comes over to me and says, no key in tabernacle. Oh, there's a lot
That's
of
a problem.
If people would just watch.
Yeah, but you know what? They can do that, but it's harder to do. I wouldn't pick it all up. That's why I love this list you've created, because tabernacle, small suborum with a cover, small pyx, small monstrance, a chasuble. I didn't even think about the vestments for the priest. For some reason I'm thinking the priest is going to have it, or you don't think about it at all. And so this is just so beautiful. Holy oils, Easter candles, statues of Joseph and Mary. Thurible, incense, charcoal, lighters, Bible, breviary, liturgy of the hours, catechism, books of blessing, funerals, sick calls. I'm like, oh my gosh.
What I've done is built a luxury list of what you would have if you had an actual chapel in a barn, in a basement, an apartment room, anywhere. But if you wanted to go to that extent. Yes, we think of Cardinal Juan when he was in prison. And he got breads in a flashlight. He got wine marked as medicine, and he said mass in the palm of his hand. That's the basic, from memory, the basic mass. From that grows this apostolate, grows the list. From that, we can make things happen more and more as God allows you to do so based on your state in life. Not everybody can do all this. A lot of stuff. And it's expensive. I get it.
But you can also do this in community. You can have friends kind of come together.
Yeah, if you've got Knights of Columbus, there's a lot of homeschool. You have a whole bunch of homeschool people who, for some miracle, know something's wrong and something might happen. You could talk about that at a meal and say, okay, I can't afford this. I can't afford. We each contribute, and then we each have a place that we store this one grouping of stuff, and we all know about it. This is going on in China, has been for a long, long time. Mexico just elected their new leader. Bad things may come. Nicaragua just arrested 9 priests. This stuff is going on. Nigeria, everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's coming here. And we say, oh, this is America. No,
it's going to come.
We're America. And it's coming. And why? Because it has to. My personal, humble, layman's opinion, well, we have to go through this.
We are the #1 consumer of pornography, for instance. And so how can we not be punished? Right. How can we not? And
I was born and raised.
We've gotten into a complacency because we think that our country's never going to. So everybody's still, what is it called? Your bread and circus? Or, people, as long as I still got food, as long as I got my entertainment, I'm cool.
The pedestal that we've been on is starting to shake quite heavily. We're about ready to fall off this thing. I was born and raised in San Diego, and I fished on the shore. I was a shore fisherman a lot growing up. And I learned the sets of waves for all those who are near the ocean come in sets. And then there's always that one wave you turn your back on, and it takes you out because you're waist tired. This thing is coming at us. It's like this freight train.
It is a freight train.
And when that wave comes, all the thing you can do is take a knee. All you thing you can do is just get down and let it roll over. That's what I believe we're facing. If we're not prepared for sacraments, if we're not prepared to help a priest, to house a priest, to literally hide a priest, what are we going to do? I have a story that keeps coming to my mind every time I pray, and it's real short, and I'll give it to you. Imagine ourselves role play, like I said, in the future. And we don't say the war word. We'll go ahead and say we've been at war. Somebody's got attacked. Our country's invaded.
No, there will be a war. I just don't know when.
We want to talk about the when. But it's a dark night. It's stormy, and it's been bad for a while. And we're tired, and we're scared. And there's a knock on the door. And you've done all this stuff prior to this, a year before, 2 years before. You have all this stuff hidden. You're like, what did I do that for? And that knock comes at the door, and it's at night, and there's someone standing outside that door, and they're scared, and they're tired, and they're wet. And you just know they're a priest. And he says to you, I was sent to this door, and I don't know why. And you say, come in, Father. And you feed him. You give him a change of clothes. And you say, Father, here's a breviary. And he cries. Yeah, I get emotional with all this stuff. And then in this vision that I have, this role play, this contemplation, as he's walking down the hall or wherever he's going to the place that you prepared for him to stay, you say, oh, by the way, Father, when you rested, I have everything you need for Mass. Can you imagine this man, this son of Mary, this chosen son, his whole life is Eucharist, who had to run, who's probably been hiding. Who knows? Yeah. However it works out, we don't know. You can only imagine the worst. And he comes to your door, or he comes to a door that you are a part of.
And you can feed him so that he can feed you the bread of life.
And that's where the tabernacle stuff comes in. People say, well, you can't do a tabernacle now because it's against the rules. Only the bishop can allow that. I know. I get it. This is not for now. Imagine a time when the bishops are gone. Imagine a time. There's not that many of them. There are, what, 270, 290? I don't know, in this country alone. There's not very many. Imagine a time when they're no longer allowed to say yes or no. And all you have is this priest, this holy little man, who still holds to the magisterium of the church, who is in hiding and running because he can no longer say Mass unless he says it the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's not a Mass. And he's in your house. So he has the celebration of the Eucharist. And he doesn't just consecrate one bread into the body of Christ. He consecrates a ciborium full. Of course. Where's he going to put them? A shoebox? I don't think so. Not cool. He would like to, and you say, Father, oh, I got a tabernacle. He says, what? Yes. God told me to do this a year or two ago. I don't know why, but now you're here. It makes sense. I got a tabernacle. I have a ciborium.
Yeah.
While he's with you, I'm still role playing, sorry. He has to make sick calls. And a lot of us are going to be sick. A lot of us are going to be dying for multiple reasons. And you got one priest. You may be his bodyguard. He may need to store Christ somewhere while he takes care of others. I'm just still role playing. This is what God puts on my heart. This is why this apostolate was born. This is where it came from. Is this what if? And that's why I said it's going to take such a deep faith to do this. Because we don't know. We just don't know.
What a blessing you are that you listen. Not only God chose you to speak to you, but you were such a blessing because you listened.
My wife wouldn't say that because this is all I talk about in the truck driving around.
That's okay. Till death do us part. You might drive her nuts.
There he goes. Yeah.
Yeah. But how many, just curious, how many priest phone numbers do you have in your cell phone? You know, how many priests do you know?
That is funny. Last count, I think, is 12.
Yeah, I think I have 21. There are a couple in there that I wouldn't call upon. Yeah, but they're, and you know, and it goes back to, we need to know who the community is. We need to start building it now, because you are going to be wise as serpent, gentle as a dove. You need to know who you can trust, not only the priests, but the people, because some people will sell you out for a loaf of bread. And so start preparing for those things that you're talking about in the future today, because we do not know how soon that future will be upon us. It will be upon us. Could be next. It could be right after this election, because crazy things are going to happen no matter who.
It could be right after this podcast.
Yeah, it could be. But I anticipate it's going to be a bad November, specifically because the American elections were watched from around the world. But I do think the American elections are going to be very telling. If one party gets in, people will say, you guys stole the election. If the other party gets in, the haters are going to want to blow bombs off. It is going to be crazy. It could be then. It could be after the Synod on Synodality is actually supposed to go into 2025. It could be after then that they announce, oh, look, we've changed the words. So be prepared. Be in a state of grace.
I want to bring up that one point of all this stuff stacking up and fear. There's been a lot of silence toward this, which has been kind of hard to understand, but then I get it afterwards. People may be afraid to approach this. I have one beautiful priest that I know. He's a wonderful man. But he grew up in the communist regime in a different country I won't mention.
Who knows what to
And
look
he actually told me, God bless him, and I understand, please don't put me on your list. He's afraid. Oh, there's my mom again. Hold on a second. Let me give.
You can't turn off home phones, otherwise he would have silenced his phone, but
Mother.
moms can be so persistent.
But
Well,
I have to say, what comes to mind real quick, I too am afraid. And if anyone says they're afraid, I think they're lying to themselves.
You mean if they say they're not afraid?
Yeah, they're not afraid. Well, people say they're not afraid. I'm afraid. And people who are not afraid. There's a lot coming, a lot we have to face. And we've learned a lot from Our Lady. We've learned a lot about
From her
the
prophets.
potential of what we're facing.
Yeah.
But then I think to myself, I've got maybe 20 left, 25, maybe. I'm 59 now. I've worked hard all my life. I'm pretty broken. I don't have a lot of time left. What am I afraid of? And what was he afraid of? What was Christ afraid of? What did he do for me? So, not to be all noble and everything, but if I stand before him, and when I stand before him, I should say, he'll ask me one or two things. Or he'll say one or two things. Thank you for doing what you did, or why didn't you do what I asked you?
Exactly.
So which person do I want to be standing there?
Exactly.
Of course,
And
I'll
as
have
you
my
said,
own laundry list of stuff that I want to ask him, of course.
yeah.
And
Well,
you couldn't have-
courage is actually pushing through fear. It doesn't mean it's not the absence of fear. Courage is going forward despite the fear and through the fear. And that's what we are called to do. Listen, I want people to be able to get a hold of you. So I already gave them your email address, Michael Gardiner, and it is preciousfood@proton.me. I'm putting that in the show notes. Also in the show notes, I want to put, he has sent me this 3-page, very well drafted letter on why we're doing. It starts with a letter to the remnant, and it's got this comprehensive list with links to every one of them for the things that we will need. And I'm not he's not on the show to sell anything. I didn't even realize that he made the Tabernacles. So I'm going to push myself because I do realize you're a great resource, but get your hands on this and talk to your friends who you know are who you
Pass it
presume will be part of the remnant, and get them to discuss. Maybe you coming together and have a chasuble, or have the mass stuff at one person's house and you all know whose house it's at. Maybe you switch houses. Maybe those are the discussions we need to have, but let's be in a state of grace. Let's be prayerful. Any final things that you want to say to our viewers before we close?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Please don't be afraid. Do whatever he tells you to the best of your ability. Give it all you have, with every ounce of courage that you can muster, with every drop of sweat you can you do it. What have you got to lose? I have all of eternity to spend with him, to spend with the Holy Family, who I long to see what they look like.
Yeah, me too.
Right now, this is tough stuff. I'll bring up Daniel O'Connor, good old Daniel. He made a statement, he says it often. Right now is the toughest time, because we're not surrounded with the grace that we're going to have during the chastisements when they hit. The hard stuff, not now, the hard stuff. We're going to be inundated with God's grace. Miracles are going to happen all around us, but it's not now. This is the time of test, the time of transition, the time when we're learning who we are before God. Give it all you got. Don't be afraid. Prepare for what's coming. Because without the sacraments, imagine life without the sun shining, like Padre Pio. That's what he said. The sun might as well just go down and stay down without Eucharist. Who are we going to be? We're
To whom
Catholics.
shall we go?
Where else shall we go? One more thing I wanted to say real quick is the two things that I put in this, and one in particular is the man with the water jar at the bottom of the stairs at the upper room, who the 12 guys, the 12 apostles were sent to. And then the boy with the basket, just readings a couple Sundays ago. God is God. He is everything. He is everywhere, but he's simple because he is everything. Who is that kid? When the 5,000 were fed, who's standing there with the fish and where do you come from?
And the loaves.
Yeah. Or the guys are sent, and Jesus is going to town. You're going to meet a guy standing there with a water jar. There he is. And there's this guy standing there with this water jar waiting, and there they come. And from that,
They fed the
we
thousands of people
thousands. And
and
are still
converted.
to this day. But who's that guy? And that kid, that's us. That's us. That private conversation between Christ and us.
That's a really important thing. You're right. They weren't named, but they were us. They were you. They were me. Do you have five loaves and two fish? Do
God
you
could
have water jugs that are ready to be filled?
exactly. God can do
Wow.
anything. God
He can.
chooses to use us.
Thank you for using you and for reaching out to me and for having that. I'd like to get you on other people's shows just to talk about this again. And I just want you to click on. What was that? Oh, don't worry about it. Click on the link in the show notes. This is wonderful. And I do get reached out by a lot of people because I say, tell me if you think we have a podcast we can talk about. When Mr. Gardiner reached out to me and I saw this, I knew he had to be on the show. If you are serious about being prepared for these times, please click on this. Please print this list. Please start purchasing these things. And if you need to reach out to him, his email is there as well. He's the sacristan. He's done this before. And he's working as the hands and feet of God as well to help you prepare for the things God's given him the privilege to prepare for. So, for me, if you can, share this show with your friends and family. Go find me on YouTube. You can also go to my website, breakfastwithbacon.com. I'm also on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook and X and Rumble. Yeah, I'm trying to remember those. So go to those places, share that. And don't forget to go to truthspeakers.org and come to our conference in October. I would love to meet you. And I can't wait. I've never met Mark Mallet in real life yet. Christine and Daniel I have, but I can't wait to meet Mark. So it'll be wonderful. Yeah. So, all right.
Okay.
What was that?
We'll load the camper up and head that way.
Load it up. We'd love to see you. And if you do get here, you can sell some of your stuff.
We'll do anything for
any excuse for all right. Well, for those of you viewing, just want to say, God bless all of you. Thank you for watching Breakfast with Bacon. I want to remind you, I'm Dr. Christine Bacon, and I want to remind you always to live your life. Do you remember how to do this?
Here, come. You ready? Sunny side up, right?
He did it. Sunny side up.
Okay.